Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and we're still with you on today's edition of Cairo Local Time. And of course, as promised earlier today, we're discussing the economic development and the economic performance of Egypt in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. And a recent report has been released saying that Egypt actually is coming out as one of the strongest countries in terms of economic performance in developing nations. And of course, according to the World Bank, this was made possible because of the economic reform program which was implemented over the last few years. Now we're delighted to be joined in the studio by our guest for this afternoon, Dr. Samir Riad, the businessman and economist. Dr. Samir, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Doctor, now of course, a lot of countries have struggled. Actually, all countries have struggled worldwide because of the COVID-19 pandemic. While some countries embarked on total slowdowns, total shutdowns, others had partial shutdowns. But regardless of whatever strategy, their economies were severely affected. Egypt, though, fared better than other countries. In your opinion, why was this so?
Definitely, we are in a much better position than other countries due to certain facts. First, which we are situated between three continents, and we are very close to Europe. And when things are deteriorating in Europe, definitely the positioning of Egypt helped us to enable us to have a quick supply. We are only 1 or 2 hours away from Europe. And number one. Number two, the improvement of our infrastructure in the last 5 years or 6 years, this helped us a lot, which I believe, this was is a very, very positive point, which made us, in a much better position, especially in the sector of agriculture.
Yes.
Because definitely everything stopped, but, food and agriculture product which was needed in certain market, which they were provided from very far away. That's why the Egyptian position was preferred and was a quick one. And definitely this one of the very good reasons why we recovered, The
Egyptian agricultural sector was indeed one of the most strongest sectors in the last period.
Because we increased our export, in the last few months, and here, And all of these things together made us, surviving the pandemic. And definitely this is due to the improvement of a lot of sectors, which is, our president and our policy, which has helped us very much to be in such a situation.
Indeed. Now, Egypt and the Egyptian leadership acted very quickly at the start of the pandemic with lots of decisions that were implemented at a fast rate, whether it was by the central bank or by the Egyptian government or by the ministries of whether social solidarity, etc., with loans and the suspension of the 6-month credit limitations, etc. How do you see all these measures that were taken quickly at the beginning of the pandemic to alleviate the situation for people in Egypt?
Actually, we can just, take the examples of our president, that he cares a lot about time. And the bureaucracy, which it has been, a big limitation in our economy and in our day-to-day life, has been demolished to a certain extent, because of the following up closely from our leader. And this is the kind of things which I appreciated very much. And I hope that we learn out of it as an individual or as a society, the value of time, the value of a decision to be implemented and to be seen about it, that it will be in the right decision and in the right place. All of these things together made us, surviving this pandemic.
Absolutely. Right. Doctor, let's talk a bit about the measures that the Egyptian government took right at the beginning of the pandemic, when it was declared a global disaster or a global crisis. While some countries embarked on total lockdowns, Egypt didn't. It embarked on a partial lockdown, in some places a slowdown. Did this help the Egyptian economy fare better to withstand? And did it help the recovery to not take as long?
All of these measures were really, studied well and put in, in a good perspective to enable us to overcome the issue of this disease, and on the other hand, to help our economy as well not to be deteriorated to the extent that we can, and this is the kind of things which this compromise made us survive, and thank God it succeed. And the following up from, our Prime Minister and the ministers and everybody, this made us, surviving, and this is the kind of things which I appreciated very much.
Indeed. Doctor, let's talk a bit about, as you mentioned in the beginning, infrastructural development, whether it's the new roads or bridges or the development of ports, the development of storage facilities. All these have lured investors to Egypt, encouraged investment in different sectors in the Egyptian economy, moving away from the traditional sectors that usually attract investors. How do you see this move accompanied by the economic reform program that the country has been embarking on for the last few years?
Definitely the infrastructure was not, looked after, for many, many years, and with the increasement of our population, in the cities and the villages, and all of these things made life getting, a bit tough, and that's why this improvement made the whole economy, for, the Egyptian people, and not only for the investors, only, that our economy was, pushed forward, due to this improvement of the infrastructure.
Indeed.
And, definitely these kind of things which we are building on it now, this will see the results of it every day.
Indeed. Right. Now, with the modernization of the Egyptian industry, there has been a move to further industrialize Egypt, further depend on domestic production, domestic products, to kickstart really the spending of Egyptian consumers. How do you see this as playing a big role in the Egyptian economy's performance over the last few years?
I want to mention here, about our education and the system of education which they are working on it. And I hope that we will succeed to produce the right, the right individuals and the right people for our industry by introducing the right education, and, that we can really benefit from our people, and this masses, we are 100 million people, and we want to devote certain, number of them to the industry to enable us to industrialize our country and industrialize ourselves, and to minimize our import, and to, to increase our export. This will definitely reflect on all of us, and this is the kind of things which I believe, the government and our, they are working on it hard, and I hope that we will succeed in a short time to enable us to get the right man for the industry.
Doctor, now the manufacturing sector in Egypt makes up 16.2% of this country's GDP and about 12.4% of employment of the Egyptian workforce. Now, unemployment rates have also been falling, and this is very good news, which means jobs are being made and more employment opportunities are now available for the Egyptian workforce. How important is this in order to drive the economic wheel forward, as well as create more opportunities for youth employment specifically in Egypt?
We have to increase those numbers.
Yes.
These numbers is poor in a way, If we talk about the number of the population in Egypt, we are 100 million people. If we take 5 people per family, that it means, we have got 20 million families. I hope that we can devote one in each family to the industry. That it means we will make 20 million workers, 20 million people which they are involved in the industry, which I believe we need it to enable us to boost our economy and to boost our level of life, and I hope that, they are working on it. I believe all of these things is known to our leader and our people, which they are looking after those points, and I hope that they will succeed with their programs and their ways, to put things in the right way, you know.
Doctor, now a very important sector of the Egyptian economy was the tourism sector, a major player when it comes to economic development and income in Egypt.
Right.
Tourism was hit hard
Right.
by the COVID-19 pandemic worldwide, as of course everything was shut down, even flights were suspended.
Right.
So let's talk a bit about the Egyptian tourism sector. How do you see its recovery, the slow start of domestic tourism now, and now the international opening for international tourists? Do you see this sector as recovering at a steady rate, or do you expect it to be faster or slower?
As
What are
we
your
say, you know,
expectations?
after the dark it comes the day, you
Yes.
know, it will not, you know, and I hope that this will recover soon, definitely, because this is not only by us, it is worldwide, and I hope that we can recover from it. But I want as well, you know, that since this is a sort of an industry which is not 100% stable, we hope that we cannot depend on it too much. Let us have the alternatives, but there is too many people involved in this sector, and I hope that they will find this, you know, a cure for this, you know, because definitely Egypt possesses a lot of sightseeing and a lot of places which they are very good, you know, history-wise and you know, and beach-wise, and you know, Egypt is rich country in this term, you know.
And actually, Egypt played a very interesting role during the lockdowns of virtual tourism.
Right.
There were lots of sites online to allow visitors to continue their archaeological visits or their tourist visits online with virtual tours of museums and specific temples, etc. How do you see that move in sort of keeping the legacy of tourism during the lockdown?
Everything will bring some advantages to our people, which is we are welcoming it, you know, and definitely this is a good move, but we hope that we can recover 100%, you know.
Right, because we're running out of time, Doctor. Let me ask you, during the COVID-19 crisis, especially the beginning of it, some industries actually gained very well and benefited, like telecommunications, software, hardware, etc. How do you see their benefits during the crisis, which might have been the opposite of lots of other industries that were struggling?
Right. There is a lot of industries affected, definitely, because the day life has been disturbed, and definitely the market has been disturbed, and the export has been disturbed, import has been disturbed. There is a lot of sectors which has, but you know, it was not damaging. Thank God for Egypt, and we did a good job, and hopefully now that we can start now, we can see some saying that this epidemic will be finding a cure for it, and you know, with this cure, the economy will improve as well.
And finally, the Finance Ministry has seen the Egyptian GDP growing at 5% for this year. The figure is higher than the earlier expected 3.5% to 4%, of course, as a result of the national mega projects that are being implemented. This is quite a positive step.
Fantastic.
What does this mean? What does this mean in terms of layman terms?
That is, the income for the individual will be improved.
Which is indeed
which is a positive
the point.
thing. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. I'm afraid that's all the time we have for today. Dr. Samir Sami, our guest, our businessman and economist and guest for today's edition of Cairo Local Time. I'd like to thank you very much, sir,
Thank you too.
For coming in this
Thank
afternoon.
you. Pleasure.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we wrap up today's edition of Cairo Local Time. We do hope you have enjoyed it. My name is Angie Meher. Many thanks for watching.